everybody, wanted to do something just a little bit different and talk today about something that I love, personality tests. I'm the kind of person that just loves anything introspective that helps me to understand and articulate how I process the world and helps me understand how other people process the world and gives a vocabulary for us to understand our differences in the way we perceive things. I find that incredibly useful. And actually, I desperately wish there was some way that in my comment section, I could know people's personality types as they posted things, especially like the crazy people that write stuff that's just like so over the top, like, what's driving this? How do they process the world? And why is it so different from the way that I process the world? My personal favorite personality test is the Myers Briggs personality test. It has 4 different categories. Each of them has a binary different scale on it. And that makes for 16 different personality types. And I find that useful, that it's not like, are you this one or this one? And it's not which animal are you? Which, there's a lot more than 4 different ways that people function in the world, but 16 different types, that you start getting pretty close. They can start to describe you pretty well when you break it down to that level. If you've never taken the test before, most people have taken it in school at some point in time, but down below in the comments, or excuse me, in the description, I have a link to 16personalities.com. It's not technically the Myers-Briggs personality test, but it's the Myers-Briggs personality test by any reasonable estimation. And so for me, I like this one because it breaks it down so well. And whenever I've read it, I've been like, yeah, that describes me pretty well. And where there's been a little bit of discrepancies where it seems like maybe I'm a little bit of this other one, even that kind of makes sense in light of all the details inside of it. So go take the test real quick. Find out yours. Tell me down below in the comment section, especially if you're a frequent commenter. In just a second, I'm going to dive into it and tell you what mine is. All right, now that you've taken the test, I am an INTP. I don't know why I did that, like INTP. That means I'm an introvert that's intuitive, thinking, perceiving, which are words that aren't particularly useful. The category on 16 personalities, they call me the logician, an innovative inventors with an unquenching thirst for knowledge. That's very true. Continues on. The INTP personality type is fairly rare, making up only 3% of the population, which is definitely a good thing for them, as there's nothing they'd be more unhappy about than being common. That's pretty true. INTPs pride themselves on their inventiveness, creativity, and their unique perspective and vigorous intellect. So true about that vigorous intellect. Usually known as the philosopher architect or the dreamy professor, INTPs have been responsible for many scientific discoveries throughout the years. Here's a quote on them. INTPs are known for their brilliant theories, unrelenting logic. This is just spot on. In fact, they're considered the most logically precise of all the personality types. I'm liking this. One final thing I'll read on here, and then I'll start kind of breaking things down a little bit. They love patterns, which if you watch my reviews, I'm always noticing patterns inside of story structures, tropes. That's the language I use. That's the way my brain is wired. Spotting discrepancies between statements could almost be described as a hobby, making it a bad idea to lie to an INTP. This makes it ironic that INTP's words should always be taken with a grain of salt. It's not that they're dishonest, but people with their the INTP personality type tend to share thoughts that are not fully developed, using others as a sounding board for ideas, theories, and a debate against themselves rather than actual conversation partners, which you can kind of think about my videos that way. You think about how often I put videos out there are ranking, and then people come back like, why did you change your ranking? Did you read that last paragraph? I'm using all of you as a sounding board to try and work through my theories on it. So I'll put an idea out there and you guys will call me on it, and I'll change, I'll morph, I'll shift along with what you're saying. Not because I'm just like, easily swayed, but you make logical arguments and I'm forming my thoughts and help shape all that. So Myers-Briggs personality type, there's 4 different categories. And let's walk through those ones because I want to help you understand you a little bit better. First category is extroverts and introverts. The stereotype is the extrovert is the life of the party and the introvert is the shy person in the corner that doesn't want to talk to anyone. Really, the idea is more about where you recharge, where you get your energy from. And so extroverts need to go out and be social and be around people to kind of feel recharged. They don't do well when they're on their own. Introverts, it's not that they don't like being social. It's not that they can't be the life of the party. It's that they need to recharge kind of off by themselves. And that's true of me. If you notice anything about me, I can be the life of the party. I can be the guy that's kind of driving the energy of a event. But then afterwards, I lock myself up in my house and I don't want to go anywhere. I just like to be at my home quite a bit. That's very much introversion. I recharge when I'm at home. Second category is that's sensing, an S, or intuitive, an N. The words are not useful for the most part. They're confusing words, but S is a little bit helpful. And the idea is, how do you perceive the world around? How do you see things around you? So an S sees things using their senses. So they see the can and they would describe the color of it. They'd say there's a cherry on the can. They would comment on the font that's being used there. It's what they see with their senses, or maybe what they smell. In N, that's me, intuitive, they notice more functionality in things. And so I would look at this can and my first thought I would maybe notice the colors and things like that, but in order to describe it, I would pick it up and say it's empty. And so someone's drank this. So I'm describing a person that drank the can. I'm not describing the can. I'd say that there's a dent in it, so the can must have hit something. All that's functionality. It's developing the story around it. It's not so much exactly what I'm seeing. Notice the way I do my reviews. I don't talk about the cinematography. That's not what I'm great at. I'm not great at talking about the acting so much. That's not my sweet spot. But I'll talk about story structure and flow and how it ties into the mythology and those types of things. It's this bigger picture type of thinking. That's what I'm a little bit better at. Third category on there, it's T and F, thinking and feeling. The stereotype is that this person is logical and this person's emotional. That's not what it means. It's how you make decisions. When you're trying to make a decision about something, do you tend to be stronger swayed by the emotional effect it has on other people, how it'll affect people and the emotional weight that carries, or the raw logic of what's best, what makes the most sense, what's most fair, logically speaking. Now, you can be a very emotional person that flies off the handle and make decisions in kind of this fair-minded kind of logic facts level, and you can be a very emotionless person, but decides based off of how things affect people and how it like, and think about individuals and their families. And so these ones can be a little bit tricky because the terms, we understand what they mean, thinking, feeling, but it's easy to misinterpret what the categories mean. The last one is perceiving and judging. These words are not useful at all. But the idea behind them is that a J person wants things decided. They want things closed off, and P people want things open. And they're fluid in their thinking. And so the idea being, if you go on vacation, a J person wants a schedule. They want to map out exactly when they're going to do things to be most efficient. The P person hears that and goes, I'm on vacation. I want to be able to decide what I want to do whenever I'm there. So why would you do that? And they get stressed out by this idea of scheduling the whole vacation. The J person gets stressed out at the idea of not scheduling the vacation. Like, what? I don't know what I'm going to do. That sounds stressful. And so it's just two different ways. Do you want to decide it or not decide it? So I'm a P person, my personality type, P person. And I think even the way I talk about movies, I don't care if you don't like the same movies as me. I don't care if you think a movie's bad. Now, I'm interested, and if I know you, I'm interested. I care about your opinion on things. But if you don't like the same thing as me, it's not like, what? You have the wrong opinion. I need to change your mind to convince you that would be a very J thing to decide there's good movies and bad movies. For me, it's just kind of this open flowing thing. Even my rankings. Some of you guys get annoyed because they're like, why did you move Guardians of the Galaxy in your latest ranking? Well, that's what I do. I'm constantly shaping my thoughts based off input, based off watching them again. It's not locked in. It's all very fluid. And I give scores whenever I do my new reviews, but then by the end of the year, when I do my end of the year ranking, things shuffle around a lot because I'm very fluid in my thinking and it's not locked in. And at the same time, in certain aspects of my life, you can look at me like I schedule out my videos way in advance. I have things that are very regimented. It's very closed off in the way that the templates that I use for my videos, it's all pre-decided, which is a very J thing to do. That's not because I'm a J, but it's because J is a far more efficient way to do life. And so if you want to be successful, you have to learn to function in the world of J. That's not because that's the way I naturally am wired, but it's a better, more efficient ways to get things done, because just being kind of free form and make it up as you go along, not terribly efficient most of the time. So anyway, that's the way I'm wired. I would love to know how you're wired. I would just kind of different ways that people think. and how you think it affects the way you talk about movies, how you review movies. Because I think that's the sort of thing that could be very fascinating. I've thought about it. If I were to get my master's or doctorate or something like that, what would I write my thesis on? And that's one of those things I've had in my mind, like to do a research study on how personality type changes the way people review movies, talk about movies, perceive of movies. That's very fascinating to me. And I have some theories on this one that kind of tie into maybe even perhaps some of the reasons why critics fall in one category and audiences fall in different categories. I have a bunch of different theories tied to personality types. And so I'd love to know if you're someone that comments frequently, please share yours down below. And even that little paragraph blurb, with all of it. Love to hear your thoughts on all of that. With all that said, thank you guys so much for watching and see you next time.